Hello, nice to see you. Yeah, good afternoon. It's a different day that I'm streaming today. So if you're all confused, it's not Sunday, it is Tuesday, but that's what happens. Yeah. If you're listening to me on YouTube, can you please give me the thumbs up to tell me that my audio is okay and that everything is working in the YouTube chat? Say sound is good, Danka, that would be very helpful. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, advertisements. I always forget to do advertisements. So there is another person that has their own channel and they edit short clips of my talks. So they take the long talks and they make them into short clips. And it's called Lisa Cairns video clips, I think, or video clips Lisa Cairns. And you can subscribe to that. It's nothing to do with me in the sense like I don't ask for it or command it or tell them what to put up. They do whatever they want. It's just really sweet and they do it for passion. So yeah, there's that. And you can find it associated with this channel at the bottom if you want to find it. The next thing is next Easter I'm doing a retreat in northern Germany and you're welcome to join me. It's for 7 days, 6 nights I think, over Easter, and it's at a bio-organic hotel, and it was originally set up by Osho Sannyasin, so it's still got that flavour to it, and it's in old manor houses, German manor houses in eastern Germany. Yeah. So come and join me. And the hotel itself is very expensive. Well, it depends on what your budget is, but it's quite expensive. So there are other ways that you can go which are cheaper. There is a guy called Giacomo. He's on the website. You can find it in accommodation information. And he is renting an Airbnb and looking for other people to rent it with him, and I think it will work out like 100 or 200 euros for the week, for the 6 nights I think it is. Yeah, so you can do that. So the hotel I think is quite expensive per night, and I think all the cheaper rooms have sold out, but it's really beautiful if you do have the money to stay there. Yes. And I think I have one more Zoom talk coming up the first weekend in January. I forget the date of it. It's yeah, I don't think it's the first. I think it's the weekend after that. Yeah, so you can also sign up and join that. Okay. Oh, done the advertisements. I've remembered to do them. Okay, so the title of the talk is Trying to Be Something Else Than You Are. I actually wanted to change the title of the talk, but yeah, I didn't get time before I went live because there were other things that needed to be adjusted, settings that needed to be adjusted. And I wanted to talk about forgiveness. Maybe I'll talk about that in the end, like true forgiveness. And maybe it comes in with that title of trying to be something else than you are. What is the name of the title? Just let me have one more look. Trying to be something else than you are, which is a nice title as well. Yeah, Batman says anyone else can't hear. He just wants to send me on that loop of getting stuck in my audio. Yeah. So don't let me get paranoid about my audio. Please give me the thumbs up if it's good. Yeah. You know what I'm all like. The reason that I'm a little more paranoid today than normal about my audio is because there's an update on my system, and yeah, it sounds like it's a little bit loud now. So let me just turn that down a little. And it rejected my microphone. Yeah, okay, but let's begin. So, it's such a beautiful title. Let's get deep and personal. I think on the human level, it's such a struggle to remain your authentic self while socializing. It's easy to do it in a spiritual group where everybody is understanding and open to this, but it's very difficult to do it, say, the holidays that are coming up with your family, like to remain authentic. It's actually a personal struggle that I have. Is my personality tends to be quite quiet, believe it or not, because I'm here yakkering away, and I'm not like a big chatter. I can be chatty about subjects that I'm interested in, but my natural flow would be to be more quiet. And I find it difficult in social situations to remain as quiet as I want to, predominantly through empathy of others, but it's not really empathy for others, but that's what it feels like, is that if you're quiet with other people feel like you have to talk, and they begin to get very insecure, and then I can see them getting insecure, and so I begin to want to rescue them from their insecurity, but it's really nothing to do with them in a way. It's my discomfort with their insecurity, because that's their karma to be insecure. It's something that I'm really working on at the moment, to try to allow people to be uncomfortable. And I have it a lot. I'm not like this natural extrovert, like Angelo that I interviewed. I don't know if any of you noticed, when I interviewed him, I just asked a couple of questions, and that was like the whole interview. And he's like more of an extrovert and like puts himself out there. Well, it's not that he just puts himself out there. Like when you meet him, he's very chatty and verbally dexterous. Whereas when I meet somebody, actually, I would just prefer to just be silent for a bit. And that would actually be my authentic way of being, just to take them in and be quiet, and just to build up trust and intimacy before there's lots of chit chat. But it's not what people are used to, and also it's not the way I live my life generally. Like, so when I am socializing, a big part of it is, when I'm doing, well, it's not really socializing, but when I'm being social, it's like doing one-to-one sessions or doing retreats. And then it's like even more exaggerated, because people have this like expectation of me, and they've seen me lots and they feel really intimate with me. And then I meet them and I'm like, hey. And then I just don't feel like saying anything else. And that's really, honestly, my authentic way of being often, is I really don't feel like saying anything after I've said the initial hey. But I often encourage myself to do that, to try to make the other person feel loved and accepted, because they're nervous, they've come into this unknown environment, and I feel like chatting will help them a bit. So I said, but I'm trying to actually change that and not do that and let them be uncomfortable, which is really painful for me. I find that painful. Like, so the nice thing to do is to be like, hey, how was your travel? Is your room okay? Just like these regular things which makes people feel loved and accepted into the group, and is really beautiful, but I'm just not the right character for that. It's not my natural mode of being, and I can feel it. The pain of exerting myself and pushing myself to be more verbally dexterous. As a child, my mum actually was really quiet as a child, and as a child I was more quiet. Like, I didn't learn to speak till later in life through my neural diversity, and I just wasn't very chatty. My mum, as an adult, my mum turned out to be very chatty. As a child, she was very quiet. And this is painful for me. This is something that I've been working on for a long time, prior to awakening and after awakening. It's something that I strive to. The pain of it is watching the other person be uncomfortable. Like that's what gets me. It's not the being quiet with someone, or it's not the actual act of it. It's the pain of seeing them become weak and nervous and scurrying, and then like talking lots to try and cover up the silence. That sounds plausible. That sounds like, okay, yeah, she's, trying to be a nice person, but is it really the best thing in the world for me to try and do that? I don't know. Some people would say it is a good thing to do, like therapists might encourage that you want to try to like bridge that gap and make people feel more comfortable. From my inside, it feels really authentic just to not say anything and just to be quiet and just to like stand and stare at each other or look at the floor. Yeah. And now I'm exposing it, which is a really great thing, because it means that when we're on retreat together or when we're doing a one-to-one session, you know that about me, and you know that, if I'm being very verbally dexterous in the beginning, it tends to mean that I'm doing it because I'm wanting you to feel comfortable. Yeah. And I see every time I socialize as an opportunity to work on this. This is my weakness, and it's my opportunity and my gift every time I socialize. And apart from that, I would say that that's my most inauthentic side, is that I chat too much sometimes in social situations. And some people might look at me and think that I don't chat enough. But that's my feeling, is that I chat too much in social situations. I would rather be more quiet. Yeah. So what about you? Do you know when you're being authentic or inauthentic? Sometimes we don't know what authentic or inauthentic is. To me, what I mean by inauthentic and authentic is, it's like I just feel there's this like natural flow that wants to come out, and then it's like in my body, maybe my chakra system or something like tenses up at certain situations, and then it bends like, and then something else comes out. So it bends often through the pain of something, and it's mostly in social situations. However, I would say in social situations, I'm often on the other side, so there's this side of being pushed too much into verbal dexterity, but there's another side of me that is quite authentic as well, like a lot of the time. Like apart from that, I tend to be also quite authentic as well. But my difficulty is feeling sorry for the other person. That's my weakness. And so, yeah, it feels like it bends, like there is an energy that comes out and then it bends, and it's like a painful bend to try to morph to the situation. And it's a conditioning, but it might also be genetic as well. We might be born with this predisposition, like over empathy, but I presume it's also conditioning as well. Like as a child, that was conditioned into me that I must talk or I must be sociable. And I think it's from my mum as well. My mum, as a child, I think was quite quiet, and she was always told that she must talk and be social. And so now she's like super social and super chatty. But maybe it was always there in my mum. We don't know. Yeah. It's like when I first meet people, it's like I want to really experience them on the deeper level, like in that silence, and not rush into something, not like rush into old behaviors or something. It's like I really want to meet people in a more stillness and this like emptiness, because who's really meeting each other isn't these two personality structures. It's not two characters. Like what's actually meeting each other is this like vast space, and it's like really magnificent, this empty looking, this like one beingness, this one light energy that's popping up in these apparent two forms that are chatting each other. And it's like I really want to connect that first, and then when that's connected, then see what wants to come up. Like that's what I love in relating. I just find that so beautiful. Like that what you're looking at now is an apparent Lisa, but it's also yourself as this one beingness. And that's the same when you connect with anybody. Yeah. And it feels like flow, when you're authentic, you feel like this flow. It's not the end of pain or pleasure. These are things that arise. It's like a flow. Like it just organically comes out. Yeah. So that's what the experience is for me on the human level. And I didn't experience the awakening and the shift change that. It changed it to an extent. So the seeking energy dissipated from it. So I don't see my happiness as having good communication, or the other person liking me, or if the other person's happy, that is like my happiness. Like, so it changed, like it all got a lot less, but there's still this urge, this empathy that arises in me so quickly to want to make the other person feel really comfortable and loved. And it's not even about them liking me. It's just that I zoom in so much into what the other person's feeling that it's almost as if it's my feeling. It's not even removed like I want them to like me. Like it would be easier maybe to stop that. But this one is like going in, and it's like I'm speaking to myself. It's, complicated and not. Yeah, so what is it that's authentic and not authentic in you? You can question below, and like how does that manifest? And then we've got this other side to us that's always authentic, like the non-duality side. So from the side of the absolute, from the side of this oneness that's manifesting as Lisa and the other characters, like it's absolute perfection. It doesn't mind if the character's authentic or not authentic. It's experiencing itself and loving itself for what it is. It's got no judgment. Here comes Khaleesi. Oh, my love! Hello! Hello! Yeah, she didn't make it fully to me because she comes in and has her dinner, you see. So she has to come in, hello, and then just run back to have her dinner. And she's coming again! Hello! So then there's this other energy that just doesn't mind, authentic or not authentic. it totally embraces every part of you. So in the Lisa, when she's being inauthentic, I think I just suddenly had a thought that maybe I made myself seem like I only did that at the beginning of conversations. It's predominantly at the beginning of conversations, but it also goes on into conversations. To say, if I'm with my partner's parents or something, then I will adjust myself to make them feel more comfortable in my presence, like won't be as weird or something. So there isn't that I'm not trying to like there is, it does go into other parts of relating, and it's often to do with the empathy that I feel for the other people. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, and I don't want to dominate the situation with my personality. It'd be controlling or something. But I just had to say that because I was unsure whether I'd made a clear enough picture. I didn't want to be being deceptive or anything about myself or hiding stuff about myself. But yeah, from the absolute loves all of it. So even when Lisa is not acting fully in line with herself, the absolute is still there. That one light, love, energy, beingness is manifesting as Lisa being inauthentic, and really there is no control. Like Lisa is a puppet being moved, and that's the condition that's coming through her at the moment, and that's absolute love. That is love. It doesn't want you to be any different. It doesn't need you to be any different. But on the human level, we do have this desire to be more authentic because it feels better. It's, it feels more pure. Because most of us don't want to be hiding parts of ourselves. Or even though we're not being deceptive in not being authentic, but it's almost, it feels like that. It's like, when you really get down to the feelings of it, like we want to be ourself in every situation, like all of it, like our weirdness, our quietness. We want to be able to express everything, how we're feeling. Like it's a beautiful element of the human, and maybe it only comes with awakening. Like as you explore what it is to be human, then this part becomes more prevalent that wants to be authentic. Like it might not be a desire of people that are just out of the education institutions and like at work. They might not have that desire. Their desire might be to have money. But I think when you get into this subject and you begin to authentically wake up, the desire to not have an internal and external world becomes more prevalent. So that's, I think, like what it feels like in flow is that it feels like my insides are the outsides in a way. I don't know if you can relate to that. Like I'm speaking this not having planned it, not having really thought about it, so it's all coming out a bit mishmash, but it's like not having a secret hidden world. And when I'm, being more chatty than I naturally would be, it feels like there is an inside world and I'm putting up a barrier to the other person. And I think that this is part of waking up, part of oneness, is that like the urge is to totally merge with all of this, with everything, not having these hidden manipulative agendas. Like we just want to be ourselves and show ourselves and be loved on the human level for ourselves. So this also like comes to the way that we interpret people. So I don't actually interpret people that are quiet as a problem. But actually a close relative of mine, like they really hate quiet people, and they think that quiet people are really rude, and they're always in my ear about like that they don't make effort, they're selfish, they're not very nice. Like, and I'm always like, I don't think that that's true. I think that that everybody's different, and you get some people, it's like dogs. Like Khaleesi is so reserved when she meets people, but when you get to know her, she's like more friendly and bubbly. And then you get other dogs that are like, hey, you're my friend, aren't you? And we're all really completely different, and we all should be respected. And it's not that this like really hyper dog that's like, yeah, let's be friends is like the epiphany of loving you. Like Khaleesi loves so much, but she just is like really reserved when she first meets people. She just wants to be ignored. We have a lot in common. I don't know if I want to be ignored, but I just like it to be quiet. It's just like, what are your projections about other people when you meet them? Like, and do you need there to be vocals, the vocal instrument active, in order for you to feel comfortable about yourself? Like, I don't need for there to be chatting in order to feel comfortable about myself. Like, I can look at someone in silence and love them. And feel like they love me. I do. When I begin to see them like scurrying around really uncomfortable, I begin to have feelings. But if they feel comfortable with it too, I just think it's super beautiful. So what is it? And a lot of the time people are cut off. They don't even know. So you're interacting with people that are just in a nervous anxiety because they've got lots of seeking going on, and they're like, must talk, must be liked. And they have all these ideas about what being liked is or not being liked is. And this seeking creates a separation. There's the you there that's like vibrating in nervousness that needs the other to behave in a certain way in order for you to feel loved. And I'm not getting myself out of this. I'm totally aware that my empathy is that I'm uncomfortable with their uncomfortableness. Like, there is a part of me that wants to save them from their uncomfortableness. And you might think that's altruistic, but it's, in the end, what is altruism? There is pain arises here when I see other pain, and that's got a nice side to it, but it's also okay to let people be uncomfortable. Roger used to be very firm on that. Like, why are you trying to save people from being uncomfortable? Just let them be uncomfortable. And I'd be like, sweet. And it's so beautiful. Like, to be really authentically yourself, it feels like you really line up with beingness. Like, when you're not being really authentically yourself, it feels like you curve off slightly, even though it can't really be that way. Like, no inside or outside world. There's just what's happening. And it's okay to have these old seeking patterns or these old patterns or conditions that come up that make us feel more apart from each other, but it's all illusory, but it's not really true. Like, we're all this one beingness looking at each other. So really, when I'm feeling uncomfortable about the other person's uncomfortableness, there isn't really anybody there that is uncomfortable. There is pure beingness looking at each other. Like love looking at love. And that's the total love affair. And it's so beautiful. And to really stand in that when you meet someone is so vulnerable. To look at them from that place is way more vulnerable than it is to be somebody that's got social anxiety or nervousness about meeting the other person. because the human on the human level is nothing. Like it's when you're in that flow, like there is nothing relating to nothing. Even when there is this energy coming up trying to please the other or trying to make the other person feel better, it is nothing relating to nothing. But when you're not doing that, it feels more direct. There's such vulnerability. Like this one loving energy that's seeing beyond all forms, seeing beyond like the personality structure, the karmas, the illusions. It's like purely looking at itself. Like this stillness looking at stillness. It's so intimate. Yeah. Just going to check that everything is still working. Yeah. It is still working. Work it, baby, work it. I mean, there is a really authentic side to me. My partner told me that the other day when I was at his parents' house, like I just started dancing. I didn't even know I did it. I just like sitting at the table. And I'm not trying to, like, when I say positive things about myself, I'm not trying to make me more special. There's like many a times throughout the day, I'm sure there's like real authenticity there. And then like there's something that comes up and there's a barrier, like an old conditioning that comes up. And that's what it feels like when I start talking to try to help the other person. It feels like I put a barrier up between us both. In a way, because I'm buying into the other person's game. But our society is so conditioned. You know, and I went out with my partner's family the other day. You know, can I really say to them, who've got no idea about spirituality, that this is too much talking for me now, I would like to be quiet? I mean, I can do these types of things, but it's like it's like these two different worlds meeting that's so different, eh? And I'm not trying to give a talk here with the solutions. I don't know the solutions. I find it hard in society as well. And I just share and we talk and we see what happens, and it might have an effect or make somebody think about something or change something. And then, so on the human level, I haven't got the solutions, but on the absolute, like there is nobody meeting nobody there. There is this one beingness looking at itself through two different perspectives, seemingly. But it's like this love bundle energy. Like whoever you look at, the most grumpiest, rudest, meanest, nastiest person, somebody that you've got like so much karma with, so much uncomfortableness. This goes into forgiveness. Somebody that you really have a lot of hatred for, on the human level, but beyond that, from the perspective of the looker, from the perspective of the experiencer, the true experiencer, is absolute forgiveness. There's absolute innocence. So when you're this Christmas with people where it's like the triggers like boom, 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 and you're like, oh, doing the hokey cokey inside, or the imagined massacre of the family. Like, beyond that, from the experiencer perspective, it's love. It's love. It's love. Yeah, okay. Maybe I've done enough yaga. So if anybody's got any questions, you can ask through Zoom. I think it's in the box below, or I've pinned it to the chat. Or you can ask me through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. Please make sure that you've got good audio, so headset, and good internet connection. And please don't expose anything too personal, because this is going on the internet and I don't want to damage people in any way by them overexposing themselves. So please be careful with question asking, because I love you. Okay, so if you've got a question in Skype, then you can put your hand up in Skype. No, not Skype. What's this called? Zoom. Yeah, so if you've got a question in Zoom, then please put your hand up. No. There is no questions in Zoom. If you have a question in Skype, then please put write your question, or please put call me and I will call you. Okay, we go to Zoom chat. Wo is die glasses? There is the glasses. Okay, Thomas is putting his hand up. Okay, so, hey Tom. Yes, you can unmute yourself. Just 1 second, I just have to put my box in. Yes, are you speaking? I can't hear you, Thomas. Audio. Oh, I see why. Same as system. Oh no. Yeah, and same as system. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Thomas.
Okay, I've not got a headset on, so I don't know if that's an issue or not.
It sounds okay at the moment.
Okay. No, I've enjoyed the talk. I can relate to a lot of what you've said, to be honest, and
Yeah.
I find that I probably avoid social situations out of not really fear, but I guess wanting to avoid the uncomfortableness of trying to please other people, or because I like to be quiet a lot as well.
Yeah.
And I do worry that it comes across as odd.
Yeah.
I mean, I went out with a couple of friends like a couple of days ago, and it was fun, but it was also quite draining. Partially, I think I was anxious about like not speaking enough. That took away from the enjoyment of us, you know, of the gathering. But also I feel like, and this probably sounds really self-aggrandizing, but like my level of consciousness is higher than theirs in a sense. So I feel like I couldn't really relate to them as much as as I'd have liked to.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that. It's It's the same if you like, if we took it out of like your consciousness is above them or something. If we put it into like you had different interests. So if you were like super interested in computer games or something, and you had friends that had no relationship to that, or you're really interested in psychology and friends that have no ability to relate into it, there's like an area of the conversation which can't be met. So it's difficult if you've explored yourself and explored your relationship to others and to the world, and your friends haven't. There's a whole area of yourself that you can't share with them in a way, because they wouldn't know what to say to it. They would be lost.
Yeah, especially particularly being in this conversation.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to meet my dad we're going to go for a meal in a week's time, and I'm a little bit worried about that because we're not really close. At least from my side, I don't feel super close to him. You know, things have happened over the years, and I feel that there's I'm just not that close to him.
Yeah.
So to some extent, I have to pretend. But then again, when we're when I'm actually in front of him, it might be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think.
And what I do is I look at it as a practice. So it's like when I meet, especially people that aren't into spirituality, so I know that there's no language. Like I can't say to them, I've got an emotion coming up, or I feel this, or I feel that. Like I look at it as a practice. Like, so it's a practice to see how authentic I can be, not in what I necessarily say, but just like staying in myself and allowing, like, I don't necessarily need them to understand my perspective intellectually, but I mean like staying in myself as in like staying in that, not staying in that beingness, but like staying, like I suppose not getting lost in like their emotions or what they're feeling or trying to connect, like staying in myself. I can't describe that better. And like how much I can do that before I start going into trying to make them feel better. That's my default position, is like I give up on myself, and then I just think, okay, well, what will make them feel more comfortable in this situation? What will make them feel better? And what I'm trying to do at the moment is like stay more in my body and just not go into that type of thinking or that type of energy, and how much of that I can do. And then also watching, what is it that pulls me out into that behavior? Like, why do I suddenly need that urge? And like, what games are they playing as well? Because it might also be a dynamic between you both. Like, so with certain members of my family I can think of as it's like a bit of a dynamic that I become motherly or carer or the helper. And it's like, what do they do to then suck me into sort of going into trying to make them feel really good about themselves? So I see it like a bit of a game, like but a really positive game, even though sometimes I'm like, ugh, I can't be bothered with this. Like I'd rather like be doing something creative or doing this. But it seems to be, you know, at the moment when we're in this society that is like some people are waking up and the others aren't, we have to keep meeting this again and again. So we have to find a positive way to relate to it. And so the way that I relate is like, this is an opportunity for me to expand more on the human level. I don't know if that touches anything in you or how you feel about that.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting because I'm noticing a little bit of anxiety coming up now.
Yeah.
Around like, am I allowed to have a quiet? It's funny because like you always say like have a quiet moment.
Yeah.
If you need to and whatever. So.
Yeah, you're totally allowed that. I know I'm breaking the silence now, but just you're totally allowed that. And it's so much conditioning from humans because of their insecurity that quiet people need to be chatty. We don't need to be chatty. because there's this silence and this stillness that's so beautiful as well, and it just doesn't get acknowledged. But there is this other element to us that's communicating, like this love, this consciousness, I don't know what we call it, this oneness, this beingness, which is animating us, and it's totally silent. There's such a celebration, and I can feel it, when we begin to go silent, I can feel it like ding. Like it's really sweet. I can feel it also when we're speaking as well, but it's nice when there's those pauses.
What does it feel like to you?
Love.
Mm.
I also, part of my partner's family are also quite quiet as well. And what they do is they do art together. I love this. So I went round there recently. I got there, nobody required me to speak. I walked in, I just went hello. Then I sat down. I don't think I spoke for 5 minutes. And then we decorated cookies together. It was so sweet. And sort of we had music on, it was slipping in and out of conversation. But it was just really nice to have this other activity to do.
Yeah, my partner's family are on the quieter side.
Yeah.
But it almost to the other extreme, that I want to know what's going on.
Oh right. Thanks so much. Yeah.
In their heads and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, it's been nice to chat anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for saying all of that, and I really appreciated our silences. Thank you for doing that.
It's interesting, when I sometimes I struggle to get my words out. This is something that I've been even now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've encountered that before with clients.
Yeah, with people, and actually with myself as well. I sometimes, especially because I'm going through the hormonal change, sometimes you get something called brain fog.
Yeah.
I can't get my sentences to get going. Yeah, and then also with people, sometimes it can be through a nervousness or just that they've just got a different wiring or a different setup, so that connection between what they're feeling and what they're wanting to express and then actually interpreting that into words can become difficult.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a bit of a disconnect between brain and mouth sometimes. And I've thought of myself for a long time as a very eloquent person, but the last couple of years something seems to have switched, or I was typing a message to my partner in WhatsApp and I was obsessing over using the right words and the right grammar today. Yeah. And I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's interesting. Could be related to becoming more self-aware. So, this authenticity conversation, although it could be lots of other things, there could be, so many different factors. But as you become more self-aware and there's more of a desire to be authentic, then there could be this focusing in on words as something which is stopping you being authentic, or something which is stopping you really express yourself. Or as you're getting to know emotions, it's like finding the vocabulary that fits, the new vocabulary. So it could be, but it could be related to the feeling of wanting to be authentic and not really knowing how that manifests yet.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because words kind of fall short, don't they, ultimately?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I've so appreciated this conversation. You just really started off these questions and answers really well, as in this silence and letting ourselves have more space.
Yeah. Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Oh, I found that really sweet. So if you're on YouTube, so I'll go to YouTube chat now. Please remember to put question. And then ask the question, because otherwise there might be some people that are writing things that I don't want to see, or I might spend ages just scrolling between two people's chat, which isn't anything to do with me. Sorry, the burps are coming up. So, GRUMP. What is being authentic? I hear this a lot and don't really know what it means. I think it means different things for everybody. Grump. Oh, I suppose that spells grump. That's quite funny. Well, grump. Maybe that means something else in a different language. In English, it means like grumpy, like grump. Yeah, I think it means something different for everybody. For me, it's like that oneness and the character totally meeting. So it's like there is this expression that comes out of nothingness. And I don't even know if this is right language or I've got this right. It might be something that involves this idea, but it feels like there is this like direct flow that comes from oneness, and then sometimes it gets bent into, I suppose, what teachers like Eckhart Tolle would say, the ego, like what I might call like old seeking patterns, and then you sort of like go off into old conditioning of behaving in a manner in which you were taught. Like I was taught as a child, you must speak. Only when you're spoken to, though. First of all, the adults must speak. Then you must speak. Yeah. So it's, and it kind of is a feeling. So it doesn't look a particular way. You can't say, oh, that's authentic, because for a different person, it might be being really different. So to me, you could also say it's like when nobody's acting, like there's just action happening, but it's like this flow that comes out. And before awakening, I presume you're most of the time in this character, this identity, and a lot of your actions are based around seeking for happiness in future, like getting things for the future in order to make you happy. Like there's a belief that objects are going to free you. And then when you have awakening, there is a deep knowing that freedom is this moment, but there's these old conditioned patterns that arise. And through time, they become more spacious, but they might not completely go. I mean, you can't be completely unconditioned, but you can refine them so they become more and more in line with oneness. That's how I feel. So it feels like a flow of energy, like love. And it can be painful. It's not talking about pain or pleasure. It's talking about these old conditioned patterns. So for me, it's like having family members saying that, you know, like quiet people are this or that, or really not liking quiet people. They're boring. They don't like them, you know, all these types of things. And that not being acceptable. and that you hurt other people if you do that, and that there will be danger or there will be problems if you don't use your words to soothe others. You know, the chinwag. I don't know if that helps. That's my interpretation, but everybody's going to have their own interpretation and definition of what authenticity is. Lisa, grump. So it's like living the truth that we discover rather than living the old conditioned patterns. Well, not exactly, because I love a good cup of English tea. And that's conditioned. It's not like I was just born, and because I was genetically born British, I'm not actually English, I often say English, but I'm British. And I'm not trying to be PC, my dad's Scottish. That is a conditioned thing. So conditioning is always going to be there to an extent. So it's not like me choosing an English cup of tea. Every time it's offered, I'm like, yeah, baby, I'm not allowed it at home because I'm an addict. I'm absolutely addicted to English tea. Oh man, there is just, I mean, it's one of the best things there is, English tea, when it comes to consumption. Of English tea with a nice bit of a very good oat milk. Oh yes. And that is a conditioning. So it's not exactly the end of conditioning. And I can't really define what it is, but it is to an extent. So it's like maybe the conditioning that was more like a seeking energy or something. Like, so maybe mine is like an old seeking energy that comes up. So it's this behavior. But I can't really define that. So it's not the end of conditioning, but it's this feeling that you feel inside of you, and it comes from love. It's like a flow. And it's not the end of conditioning, because we would just be a ball of jelly laying on the floor, unable to move, if there wasn't forms of conditioning in us. All of us are conditioned by trauma, by past experiences, apparently, in these bodies. Yeah. But it's something like that. But I can't quite like pinpoint it exactly. Does that make sense? I hope so. Pea milk is good too. Ugh, pea milk? Are you being a joke? I've never heard of pea milk, but maybe there is something called pea milk. I mean, why not? We have oat. We have chickpea milk. You know, we have coconut milk. Why not there being pea milk? But it's just, you know, it's an unfortunate name, pea milk. Fergie, how is it there is no perceived difference between the senses? How do you perceive this? I feel like the word looking doesn't quite capture this. Yeah. You are right, it doesn't. So, I mean, really, like this one beingness energy, it's perceiving itself through all the senses. But looking is meant to relate to this consciousness, that it's also conscious of it. There is a consciousness of it, a perception of it, and that's what they mean by looking. So I don't think that when they're saying looking, they're not meaning a sense. They're meaning the perception, which is in all senses equally. It's not just in the eyes. Yeah. But it's just so mysterious and so impossible to talk about, because it's this one beingness presenting itself as many, experiencing this, but as no thing, not a thing. It's not something we can grasp intellectually. It's here, right now, in this, experiencing itself. And what could be more beautiful than that? Here we are. Grump. Yes, I see choosing that name as being authentic. I'm quite grumpy. Yeah, and grumpy doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't come from flow. You know, this is people's misconception of it. It's really a personal thing. It's like this flow. Yeah. Hi Lisa, Nashrima. How did the sense of self drop in your case, apparently? So this seeking energy, I don't like to call it the sense of self so much anymore, but the seeking energy dropped when I was in Bali. I had this like massive awakening experience. You can go on my website, and under the About Me, there is a brief description, but there's also an interview I have with someone called Angelo, and I talk more about it. Yeah. But there's still seeking energies that come up, and there's still like an integration. It's not like I am done. And I get now like this sense of self, like there's still the appearance of the Lisa character. So I had the sense of self drop away. I struggle with that language a bit, and I like more the what dropped away was the seeking energy, or the attachment to this sense of self and this person, and this belief in this person, that this person was real. So and that this person's decisions or actions will bring happiness. What do you mean you're going through the change? Really, the real thing? You don't know what that is. The change. I am metamorphosizing into a butterfly. Boop, boop, boop. Or a non-fertile woman. Alan Williamson. Question. Sorry, the real thing. I'm only joking with you. It might be that English isn't the first language and you don't call it that in your language. I don't mean to be rude. I was just having fun. Question. Do you think people can make a connection across time? People can seemingly make a connection across time. So you can have these stories. So like me and Khaleesi, or me and my partner, like we met through time. And there is a bonding that happens through time. But really, the true connection, like that is always a story in every moment. And the true connection is always in this moment. And I think that that's the only way that you can really remain in love with your partner, is meeting them right here. Because otherwise you're in love with an image, you're in love with a story, you're in love with a past experience, which isn't really real. So you're kind of in love with a fantasy inside your head, or you're hating a fantasy inside your head. So you can have these seeming connections through time, and that's beautiful. There is a bonding and a deepening and a trusting that goes. But really, to really love them, you can only love them here in this moment as they are, which is no thing. Question, but not really. Hi, dear Lisa. I just want to thank you for all these years, maybe 10 years from now, when I found your live talks. Thanks to my friend. You are like my real family member. Thanks, Anita. And I am is our common name, and I enjoy so much all the talks and silences with you. Yeah, I am is our common name. That's so sweet. Funny thing, I forgot one time, headphones on my head, listening your talk, and fell asleep. Then I saw as we talking, and my dream, it was real. Funny thing, I forgot one time, headphones on my head, listening your talk, and fell asleep. Then I saw as we talking, and my dream as if it were real. Such a funny experience. The real thing, I'm from Oxford. Oh, you were joking then and being sarcastic. And Nanta, or Anita, or not. You know, maybe you don't know what I meant. I'm in the menopause. Maybe there's a little bit of a version of just saying the flat out word, the menopause. I mean, I'm not going through the menopause, but I'm going through perimenopause, which is what women go through prior to menopause, and they get all these things like fuzzy brain and all that. I'm never quite sure if I should talk about that or not. Hi Lisa, I watched your interview with Hal Dawkinson and it was lovely, but I noticed there was a very different vibe from these YouTube live streams. How was your experience of it? Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for me to speak about somebody else, like, and to speak about that, like, yeah. So I won't, because when I speak about it, I'm going to be speaking about me and Hale. I can't just speak about myself in that situation. Yeah. And I never really like to speak about other people. Okay, let's just go back to Zoom. We have some people. So would you like to unmute yourself? Shri Pravadri.
Hello, you can hear me, Lisa?
Yeah, I can. Hi.
Hi. I've been listening to your broadcast now and then, but for a while I was off.
Yeah.
And I follow many teachers and stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing that, I just wanted to take hold of this opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
And there was something on my mind, but it emerged out of satsang with other teachers. So one teacher actually. But the thing is that, is it necessary once suppose you have the discovery of consciousness and awareness, is it necessary to always bring it to the fore? Like, in a sense, do you have to force yourself to do that? There's a natural pull towards it, but is it necessary to always have your sights on consciousness and awareness and, like, in a very vigilant way?
Yeah. What, in order to wake up?
I don't know what to wake up exactly. I know, I get what those words mean now, consciousness and awareness. So if that is what you would call waking up, then yes, if that is what you call waking up.
I know,
yes.
it's so many
is it
different...
necessary to be like that?
Yeah, there's so many different languages, right? It's really hard to know what everyone means.
Yeah.
So,
like this sense of, do I exist?
Yeah.
And what becomes evident then if I ask myself that question?
Yeah.
This is what I've been taught as consciousness. And if I were to ask myself, what am I aware? And how, then that answer is still a yes, but you have no perception or a concept of it. You're not seeing some perception or a concept when saying, yes, I am aware, but it's undoubtable that you are aware. So these two discoveries, and is it necessary? The thing is, like, you either get that or you're stuck in language.
Yeah.
It's one of the two.
Yeah.
So,
but going back to what you originally said about, like, is it important to do the practice of putting consciousness in consciousness, or the consciousness in the I am?
Yeah.
And it really depends, I would say, on what desired outcome you want. So if the desired outcome is to become a more peaceful person, then I would say that that's a really good practice, to become more peaceful, to become more settled. What's happened in most of society and most people is that they're very lost in thought, and they're very lost in their narration of what's happening. And the good thing about the I am practice, or putting your attention back into consciousness, is it's breaking that neurotic, continuous stream of thinking that's kind of making you feel like you're dreaming your way through life. It's like you're not really here, you're lost in your stories of what's happening here. And then also the other thing that I think it does is it helps you become more conscious of the body. So it actually, weirdly, even though there is no body, it makes you become more embodied on the human level. And I think on the human level, these are two really good practices to do to calm the person down, but being aware that the one that's enacting that is an idea as well. And that consciousness, like what you truly are, is always free. So it's always dependent on what you want. If you want to become more peaceful on the human level, then I think that's a really worthwhile exercise.
I mean, actually, it's not clear to me. I mean, I don't even want to do it like really badly. It's just that one teacher told me that that's what you should do. And
what do you generally want? Like from presenting yourself to spirituality, what is it that you would like to obtain from it?
Not so sure. I mean, like, to start off with, it was just because I just wanted to be done with all my suffering.
Right.
But eventually it becomes like it just leaves you sort of like without any goals, or without, I mean, none of that makes sense after a point, you know. I'm not sure. No, I mean, I'm getting like really, I mean, this is the first time we're talking, so yes, I guess that's the thing. So
yeah. But this might be a good exploration for you to do, rather than the I am practice. It's just, you can just list out, like, what is it that you want from spirituality? Because I think that this is an important thing, because you will unconsciously go towards what you want. Like you can't help it. So it's like in your body, you're going to unconsciously find yourself moving in that direction. And so it's good to actually analyze and to have a perspective on what it is that we want. Like when I first got into spirituality, I would have said it was for enlightenment and freedom, but there was also a whole host of other things. What I also wanted, like one main thing, which I was unconscious of, was that I wanted to be able to eradicate all my wants and my desires so I could get on with other people better. If I had no wants and I had no desires, then I thought I could have more peaceful relationships. But I wasn't conscious of that. So part of me, I was attracted to no self, so I could tolerate other people. And that's a really good, important thing to understand about your personality and about what you're heading towards, because that's not really a healthy want. It's actually, if I go deeper than that, like, so that's maybe more the surface one. What I wanted is to be able to connect with people on a more healthy level. But because I wasn't naming that, and because I was just letting my unconscious drive me in that way, I was actually trying to become invisible to other people and to relationships. So I think it's really important understanding what these bodies are actually asking for. Like what it is that you actually want. You know, sometimes I find that people come to my talks because they actually want friendship, or because they want a mother figure, or because they lack a certain amount of affection and they see that in me, or because they feel like I'm unattainable in some way, and that triggers something in childhood. You know, there's all these different dynamics. So just becoming really clear, like, what is it I want? And also, wants are always changing, so they're not something that's a steady flow. They change dependent on your emotions, your moods. So doing it throughout the day, like, what is it that I want, and coming back to that. And rather than saying you should do this practice and fight against yourself, it's like, what is it that I really want? And then when you find what you want, you'll find that it's much easier to do practices or to motivate yourself to do things.
With me, the thing was that I was like suffering a lot and I wanted a way out of it.
Yeah.
And the teacher introduced me to a way, like without like discarding, not using the mind at all, not relying on the mind. And that's all so much suffering that he taught me. And I didn't have a way to sort of practice that path. It was more of stopping another practice of going to the mind. And after that, it was all just whatever happens, let it happen, as long as you're not caught in language, something like that.
Yeah.
So after a point, it was just like I liked how things were unfolding. Even now, I like it. And it seems to me that I have the discovery of what he was trying to teach me. But after a point, he started talking about like a very intense kind of devotion and also surrender and somewhat to give up yourself to the service of God, always by keeping his light, like always being aware of who you are or being aware of God at every moment. Like give it up to that, give up this me completely in service to God. So that seemed a bit too extreme for me, but I sort of get why. I don't know, maybe I don't get why he's doing it, but it just seems I was not here for a month also, and then I started attending those sessions again, and that disparity, that was something that was on my mind, and I just was on YouTube. I saw that we were finally live. You were live, and I was free at the same time, so I just came here and unloaded all of this on you. But I don't know. Am I giving you a flavor of what's?
It sounds really beautiful. Like what he says, like giving yourself up to God.
Yeah.
Like that is really, because it is that in a way. It's really letting, like I think this is what I mean by the authentic self. It's like letting that energy speak through these bodies. But it's like you might not want that. There might be, your character might still, or there might be energy in you that wants something else, and that's totally allowed.
Yeah, there's some ascetic character to him now. That's the thing that just sort of, because like when you said, I enjoy really good English tea. I get that. I enjoy some good food. I enjoy many things. And I feel that, it is sort of like meant to be enjoyed sort of thing. Why deny yourself that?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a feeling of wanting to maintain sensory pleasures, or the idea that doing that would get rid of sensory pleasures. I think that's an illusion. It's just what you lose. It's not the sensory pleasures as such, but what you lose is the attachment that will bring you any freedom. So that the tea or the whatever sensory pleasure it is will bring you that love of what you are now. Like what you've always wanted is the connection to God, is the connection to this moment. It's never actually been the food or the sexuality or the money or the alcohol or the drugs, whatever is liked. It's never actually been in that. So it doesn't mean that they can't be enjoyed. It's just that they lose that importance. And with that importance, so with believing that freedom is in an object, it does make it a lot more exciting. If you meet a woman or a man and you believe that freedom is in having a relationship with them, then you have like a really like electrified relationship in the beginning, but then it can often become very dramatic and difficult. But it's like, you complete me, you are my dream, you saved my life, whatever the stories are. So it does take that element of like highness out of them, but it doesn't mean that the pleasures can't be enjoyed. It's that freedom is always right here as you are right now. That's all you've ever wanted.
Yeah. So you said both. It is required and it's not required kind of thing.
Sorry, say that again?
No, I mean, no, I felt that you said that, like when I asked you whether that asceticism, that renouncing of all sensual pleasures, is that really necessary? you started off saying that it is sort of, because all of them are, it's I mean, every quality is God's quality, something like that.
No, you don't have to renounce every sensual pleasure. It's renouncing that they will give you God. So to me, it's not about saying, okay, no more tea or no more sexuality. It's that they will give you God. God is here already. Your freedom, your love is already here. So the renouncing, if we want to call it that, is you see that all objects, all pleasures, all sensations, every form that arises is equal on the absolute level.
Yeah. And that doesn't translate into this body being very ascetic. No, it's not required. That internal
No, but for some people that happens. But that's not necessarily a requirement. But for some people, they do go through a period of cutting off a lot of things, and some people don't. It's so different for everyone. I feel like there's as many roads, as many paths as there is people and beings. Like, it's so unique. And then at the same time, there is no path. There is just this moment.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Some other time.
Lovely to speak with you.
Lovely to talk to you too. Thank you.
Thanks. You can meet yourself again now. So, Rakesh, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks. So much resonate. Your talk today seems really synchronistic, actually. It's just to kind of, I don't even know if I have a question, but I just feel like when I speak to you, it kind of validates a lot of stuff. You're the gentleman who you talked to at the beginning, just after your opening, so much of that resonated as well. Like, and what you're saying about how, I don't know, I guess like when I'm watching like, or listening to a lot of speakers, and especially like the radical stuff, there's a lot of talking about the me falling away, and I know people, we kind of sometimes we kind of seek that, and recently it seems more like feeling more me in a paradoxical way. Like it's like there's more. I'm feeling more unashamedly me, or more unapologetically me in a way. And with that comes also, like what you said earlier, like seeing actually where was I attached to being seen a certain way, or being like perceived a certain way, or if I'm honest with myself, like probably a part of this journey was like, I want to be like, that guy who always gets on with everyone, or who always who's always like can deal with like a confrontation, or just always chilled or at peace. And then seeing that was also like an attachment.
Yeah, totally. Another seeking pattern. That's not actually truly what you wanted. It's what you were taught as a child and grew up to believe, and then it got projected onto the spiritual path. It's really profound, that insight. Like, it's a lot of people don't realize that often their idea of enlightenment reflects back their idea of like the perfect person that they want to be, but it's an unconscious thing. It's kind of really subtly hid. And then you get the different characters. So you get the characters that like want to be nobody so they can get on with everybody, and then you get the characters that want to be everything so they can dominate everything. Like, so you get like the characters that are more like, if I am everything, then everybody will love me. It's like, then I will be the center. And it's like, if I'm enlightened, and it's like the two opposites of the same coin. If I'm like empty of everything, then I can just be totally empty and everybody else will be happy with me. You know, it's really similar, but it's just opposite sides of a dysfunction, of an old karma that most people are playing out. Like how we get along, like how we relate to things is the same as how we relate to not just people, but objects, our world, our job, the way we see politics. It's all really similar.
Yeah, it's crazy. It does feel like the things that are coming up now are, again, paradoxically, like subtle, but also quite deep as well.
Yeah.
And like seeing that, maybe I'm afraid to be seen as someone who can react angrily or
yeah,
you know, and that kind of is so weird because then that suppresses it as well when you're trying to avoid that. Yeah. But maybe like part of it is just letting that out sometimes, you know.
Yeah, like being imperfect, like the human mammal is really interesting, like what we've evolved from. You know, like essentially we've evolved from this desire for survival individually and our group to survive as well, because it individually helps our survival. So it's like we're competing to survive against our group and to help our group survive. So we compete amongst our group, and we kind of forget this, that, you know, the nature of the human is like a really intense nature. Like it's not just running through poppy fields and, you know, being kind and like rainbows and and you know, and part of waking up is really accepting the nature of being human and the contradictions of it, our altruistic ideas. Most of us have altruistic ideas, but also our self-centered ideas. You know, like all of it, and that anything can arise. And then it's also going back to like you were saying about being authentic, which is like being more yourself, which is, I feel that is really true. Like the character becomes more itself, but equally on the same as on the beingness and the knowingness. Like you become more yourself as the beingness and the knowing, the consciousness or whatever we call that. So it's like this, you become more yourself on the character level, and you become more yourself on the absolute level as well.
Yeah, it's so strange, isn't it? It's it's so opposite. It happens at the same time. It's like, wait, what's going on? I'm feeling more peaceful, but also more just like
human,
sometimes more reactive and more like all over the place. Like, you know, it went from like days of expansiveness to days of contraction. And I think I talked to you about this once before, and you know how it's kind of tiring, the oscillation. Now it's like oscillating like a million times a day, like up, down, all over the place. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a phase, but I don't know. Anyway, I also wanted to say it was really nice hearing you say earlier about just that one sentence when you said, "What's coming up for me now?" Like just that alone, and also what you said after that. But just hearing that was just like, brings it back to how, you know, there is no finish line. Lisa's human too. She's working on stuff too. You know, there's no kind of, it just brings it back to like everyone's just on the same, everyone's equal again, you know, like.
And that, and that desire for the teacher to have a finish line is actually your desire for yourself to have a finish line. And it's kind of like a rejection of yourself in a way, because that's not the nature of evolution. I mean, evolution is an idea in a way. I mean, the finish line, there is a finish line right here, right now. But in the apparent time of things, everything always evolves and changes. And so when you want this finish line as a spiritual teacher, it's like you want a finish line as yourself, because you want to be able to hope that one day you will be perfect, you will look a certain way, you'll be a certain way, you'll behave a certain way, and it will be done. So it's kind of like the rejection of the character again, or the rejection of yourself again.
Yeah.
It's a painful one to let go of, because it's such a nice idea. It also can be projected outwards as well, as in like the character wants to fall in love with a perfect person that has no, like, that is perfect and is finished. So it also can be like this old desire of a perfect parent figure. So sometimes like we have this idea of the Buddha, or we have the idea of these spiritual teachers in line with the parent figure that we didn't get in the first few years of our life. So because the parent figure in the first few years of life needs to be absolute unconditional love. Like and that's programmed into us to do this. But sometimes we don't receive that. So then we project it onto these enlightened teachers and think they are absolute unconditioned love. They're finished. They have nothing self-centered left inside of them. They are, they have no emotions or something, because we want that parent figure that we didn't receive, or that we only half received.
Yeah, that makes sense, I think, because if I actually think back, initially I was much more drawn to the really tranquil, like chilled speakers, and then as time went on, I'm like a bit more like I'll listen to anyone really. Like, yeah, but yeah.
I used to be really attracted to teachers that like really knew. So they were like, this is the way it is, and da 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 da. Like, so that kind of like had a finishing line in it. It's like they were almost implying that this is the way it is, and then when you get to this stage, you're awakened, and this stage you're a stream entrant, and this time you're enlightened, and then this time you're in nirvana. And it's like really like this is the path. And I had this for a period of traction, like, yeah.
That's so funny. I was just debating that with someone the other day. She's like very much on a Buddhist structured, like stream entry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it's perfect in a way. Like I wouldn't say don't do that, because it's all this personalized journey. Like there was so much I learned in that. It's just like this opening to let that flow come through you.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely to speak with you again.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks. You can mute yourself now. Bye. Hey Carly, you can unmute yourself now. I hope I'm saying your name right.
How do you say?
Hey Kyle or Kylie. Sorry, my reading's not great.
It's Kyle.
Kyle, sorry.
No worries.
Like, it's got the Y and the L and the E, and I'm not sure with the order.
People normally can't say my surname as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed your talk about relating with other people. It really resonated with me because that's actually what I've been working with the most. I'm staying with my family again, so it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess that's been the practice for me in the present, is noticing that reactivity.
Yeah.
But what really resonated was, as you said, trying to make others feel less uncomfortable and it not being authentic.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you spoke about that, because it really resonated.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess, it was good to hear that it's okay to, like, because as you said, it's a difficult one, it feels wrong.
Yeah.
In some sense, that, you want to make them feel better, but at the same time, it's it's being authentic as yourself and not getting drawn into their I don't know, karma or conditioning or their thing. So it was good.
What I find helpful at the moment, but it's always like phases that you go through, is when I can feel that arising, like keeping the attention in the body. Because what happens in me, and this might be common to more empathetic people, is my energy goes out into them. So it also feels like I'm very loving and very expanded. So it's that I feel like I almost become them. So it's like my energy goes into them, and like Lisa and Lisa's body and anything about Lisa is totally vanished. And it's like I've zoomed right into them, and like everything is about them and their feelings in that moment. Yeah, it's really, in some ways I can see it as a beautiful experience that can be helpful in certain ways, but it's also, in some ways it's negative. It's like feeding a negative part in them. And what I find helpful is just staying, like putting the attention in my body. Like, so it's kind of like the opposite to this like non-duality and this expandedness in a way. It's like very, very strongly feeling the edges and the outline of my body, which is also kind of like no body as well. But it's like, and then staying in my energy. So you're kind of like distancing, but in a way you're coming closer to them. Like, that's what happens to me, and it's maybe really different for everybody in the way that their empathy manifests. But that's something that I've found really helpful lately, is just putting the attention in the edges and staying, what I call it is like staying in Lisa. It can be really helpful. Like, so when sometimes I'm working with someone and they're really stuck, it can be a really helpful tool to help guide them. But it's too much, you know. It's too much. It should be just very special occasions that it's brought out and used.
Yeah, I think for me, the way I experience it, because I think I'm still trying to get out of my head a lot, so I don't experience that merging or that radical expansiveness. So I guess it's kind of like to I don't know, like to try and be really authentic and feel into the conversation and not be in my head, to avoid the discomfort of the interaction.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But then at the same time, not feeling like I need to say something.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling uncomfortable. Something like that.
Yeah. So what do you find helps? Do you find it helps like focusing on the I am, or like what helps you in that situation?
So originally, actually the first practice that helped a lot was, it was this, I don't know if you know, like the headless practice of I came across this from Sam Harris originally. It's like trying to look where that person is looking to, and trying to, I guess it's a way to find the I am sense. I don't know, it was the first way that I started was the
headless way. Is that
the headless way. And then I guess I do that sometimes, and I agree that just trying to be in the sensations, but I find that difficult because sometimes the discomfort like pushes me back into the head. I don't know. Like don't want to feel it, and then thoughts, especially if it's like a conversation, maybe like I'm not really wanting to have a conversation and the other person is, then I can feel like you want to think like, I don't know, as opposed to just feeding it in the thoughts, especially you try to put the person down. I don't know if it was you or somebody else that mentioned that, another teacher, that we try to put other people down because we don't want to feel what's going on in a way, I guess. So I feel like...
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say trying to be in the sensation is probably a bit...
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, it's so different for everyone. So take what I say with a pinch of salt and practice it and see what's actually happening for you in the moment. But sometimes I find when people are very much going into the head as a way of protection, is doing what Ramana Maharshi suggests and putting the attention on the left side of the heart, and he calls that like the I am. and it's like pulling your attention more into the body. Another good exercise for it is, I know this sounds like really odd, but when you're in social situations and you're finding you're going into your head, if you can just take 5 minutes, like going to the bathroom or something, and massaging something like your hands or your feet to try to pull the attention back into your body, into the body. Yeah. But I mean, everybody is so different. I know that any advice I give is like trying to, like pin a needle in a haystack, because we're so different with such different paths, with such different conditioning, and we really have to explore and see what feels right for us. And ultimately, we do know what feels right for us. We just sometimes need a bit more guidance. And I think that's a really important way of teaching, is trying to encourage the student or the participant to find their own way and not to rely too much on what other people say.
Yeah, thank you for those practices. It's like good things to try.
Yeah, and it's just such a great like so tomorrow for a few days we have people coming to stay, and like I have this excitement. I'm like, it's another opportunity for me to practice. It's like, that's so exciting. Like, what's gonna happen? How is the Lisa character gonna deal with it?
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, actually that heart one, I think that's similar to what I try to do with the sensation.
Yeah.
A teacher once, I can't remember, but some practice, they once spoke of getting into the heart space, but larger than the physical body. So like just beyond, like a larger heart space than just beyond the heart, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like I try to rest there in some conversations, and that works. So I think it's similar to what you mentioned.
Yeah, so it's kind of bringing the attention into the body, but it's also, there's this touch of like the absolute of something bigger than the body, bigger than all of us, which is beautiful.
Yeah. I just had one other question.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how things have changed for me recently. At one point, because of just my present environment, I was practicing a lot because I feel like Angelo speaks a lot about like a heart level commitment. Angelo, the teacher.
Yeah.
Commitment to awakening and making it the most important thing in your life. And I feel like when I felt that, then I was practicing. I prioritized it. But just environments have changed now, and I find it difficult to commit to practicing. And then there's a part of me that just wants to let everything unfold as it is and let go of trying to control what's happening, because I realize that that's a part of it, is trying to control how things play out. But another part of me knows that I'm like, if I think to go and sit in stillness for half an hour or an hour, I feel a resistance and look for a distraction. That's, I guess, what I'm tossing between. And I feel, like I can convince myself, or maybe, I don't know the word for it, but like, I don't need to practice because I just let things happen as they do.
This is the nature of the mind. It's so beautifully wonderful in its complexity, eh?
Absolutely.
Because we're just here, and then this voice, which presents itself as us, arises and tells us all these different things, and it's like, yes, this is Lisa speaking, or this is Kyle speaking, and this is the truth. You don't need to meditate because, well, I can't remember your reason now, because you're just letting things happen, and then the next day you're like, oh no, that's wrong, I did it wrong, and then the voice is saying, I need to meditate, and you should be meditating, and it's kind of always going backwards and forwards in itself. Yeah. So I would just, everything is an exploration. So this is what's coming up in you now. And it's not that one voice is right over the other, because it can't be any different from what it is. what you'll find, the more that you explore and the more that you watch the mind and watch the thoughts rather than being involved in them and watch the feelings that are coming with them, and you kind of distance yourself from them, you'll find your more authentic feeling, like what is my most authentic want. And then through that, the way will begin to be navigated, like what is more authentic. But the key to it is not being fooled by the mind. So it's saying you should practice. It's like having a debate, and it's no different from like having an argument with a partner, and then you did it wrong or you didn't do it wrong. You should have done this or you shouldn't have done that. So it's just watching. Like there is this mind telling you should do one thing and then another, and then there's most probably a difficulty or an uncomfortableness in the solar plexus, because that's often related to choice. But you've got to explore this for yourself. I'm just giving some ideas for exploration. So the solar plexus is uncomfortable. So this is the practice. It's like there is this conversation happening, and then I have certain emotional responses coming up, and it colors my experience. And none of it's true. What's always true is the I am and the empty looking. And then there is this discomfort. What should I do now? I don't know what to do. Should I do this or should I do that? And then the narrative begins. And it's the same as when I was speaking about, being empathetic to the other person and thinking that if I'm empathetic to the other person, or if I help them out of their discomfort, that I'm actually helping them, whereas maybe I'm feeding into a part of their neurosis. And it's the same with you and me now. If I gave you an answer of what you should do, am I helping you or am I feeding into your neurosis? We don't know in the end, because I can't look inside your brain and you can't look inside mine, and we can't understand that. But what I can do is just point out all these different things, and then some sort of conclusion will be made.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. Because I feel a part of me knows that even just asking this question is, it's just a thought, I guess. It's just the mind,
Yeah. And can you connect it to a feeling?
Like right now, the question?
Yeah, right now, or just in your memory of your past experiences. Like, can you connect that to a feeling, like that indecision?
I feel a lot of contraction in the body when I'm not practicing a lot. And then a part of me starts to say that I need to practice. But
do you know where you feel the contraction? Do you know, is it in your shoulders or your face or your brain? Like some people get brain contractions, or in your heart, or in your guts.
I try to feel into it when I'm feeling a contraction, and I guess it varies. And I can't tell. Like maybe it's in a different place for a different thing. I'm not that aware. I guess I kind of painted it with the brush of like, oh, there's a contraction or something. But the throat, just more recently, I said like yesterday, the day before, when I was feeling into it, I noticed that feels like that in the throat.
Yeah. So in the throat, it's if the throat is contracted, like often the feelings in the throat. So the way that I base this is on chakra work, and when the throat is contracted, I'm not saying this is definitely for you. You've got to explore, but it's often about being able to express what you want, knowing what you want, knowing your feelings. So it's like your feelings being interpreted, and then you being able to express it. So that even might be to yourself, like articulating it, being heard. Like, so sometimes we haven't had a parent that helps us reflect back what we want or what we don't want. So it can be related to that there's a feeling of not being heard or not being listened to, or the parent not helping us with making choices. So the throat is all about being able to articulate it, so being able to interpret it and articulate it outwards, which can be towards yourself, like I need to do this now, about being heard, about being seen, about the way that you're relating with others. It's just an exploration. That's something you can also explore.
wouldn't have thought of, because that can fit. Also with being at home and trying to deal with reactivity with family members and that kind of thing, that could definitely make sense.
Yeah. Like, do your parents encourage you to make your own choices, or do they want to dominate your choices? Do they do it through subtle implication, or do they do it through outright domination? Like, are they supportive of your choices? Do they want you to be who you are, or do they want you to be their imagination, like, of who they want? Do they want you to live up to their imagination of what they want? So it's just super interesting to explore all of what's happening in these situations. And our body, I feel like, is like traffic lights. So if it's in the throat, then it's about your communication with the people that you're in front of, most likely. Like it's not necessarily, they could be communicating well, but it's triggering something in you. If it's in the solar plexus, it's often about choice and depression, feeling stuck, feeling hopeless, like you can't get your way, like feeling unempowered. Like there's all different areas. So if it's in the heart, then it's often about your choice and how that brings you love, like love from the outside. If it's in the head, then it's about compulsive thinking about you living through the conceptual idea of yourself.
I do feel it in the head as well. Yeah. I think that's sometimes my resistant practice is because there's a sensation in the head that I don't want to feel, and then sitting to practice, it feels like it's just going to be very heady.
Yeah, very heady. So a good thing you can do when you feel like that is a really good thing that's very easy, is doing something like taking a shower, because the shower is putting attention on your body. So rather than just sitting there and feeling like everything's getting stuck in your head, you take the shower and you can even place it on different parts of your body, the shower head, and your practice is, your meditation is putting your attention where the water is touching your body. This just is an example, because sometimes just sitting in meditation, and if you're having this problem when you're going up into the head, it's very difficult to get to something deeper. So then these sorts of activities help. Doing physical exercise, doing yoga, doing qigong, all of these things help bring that attention more into the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
The shower one is great, because who doesn't like a shower? Maybe you're one person that doesn't. But it's like, I really don't want to meditate now. And then it's like, oh, I'll take a shower. Okay.
It's an interesting one, because I think I found some of the things similar on my own. Is I like to go swimming a lot, and then if the water's cold, I feel the sensations a lot more, and then afterwards I'll feel like I'm a lot less in my head. And
water's great for this. Because because like the head is air, and so water is like this heavy energy that's bringing you back down to the feeling and the sensations in the water, and then the coldness is also a strong sensation.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Lovely to speak with you. So Tia, I can see you're been in the queue wanting to ask a question, but maybe that's enough now. I've done 2 hours. I'm really busting for a wee, and it seems, getting up, undoing myself from all of this, going for a wee, coming back, it's maybe better to finish now. So I will be streaming next week. It looks like I can't do Sunday again because of family commitments again. So you have to look on my YouTube channel, and I will show you when I'm next going live. So there will be a live streaming card on my YouTube channel. I did make a mistake today. I put 5:30 instead of 4:30. So this morning I changed it. So I'm sorry if some people thought it was 5:30. That's what happened. Anyway, thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking to you today about authenticity, and trying my best to articulate it and express it. Sometimes it's hard to put into words, so it can sound a bit unclear or contradictory, but I try my best. Yeah. Yeah, sending you lots of love, and I really, 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 really wish you everything. Every goddamn thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Bye.